want to show you what I think is the most important knob that you can find in any synth. So a few stock synths in Ableton and also Serum 2 have this global time knob. So this will control all attacks, decays, releases, and LFO rates that happen in the synth. Although some synths you might find it just controls the envelopes. In Serum 2 you'll find that there's one for envelopes and one for LFOs. So right now I have my default wavetable preset. It's just on noise unison, and I have a slow LFO and a fast LFO, both controlling like the detuning. I'm going to start by turning down this filter frequency and have envelope 2 control that by 100%. So just to give you an idea of what this does, if I turn this up, it'll kind of like elongate the sound. You can kind of make it more patty, but if I turn it down, it'll make it more plucky. And I find it's really fun to have this like either modulate or vary per note in some way. So I'm going to use my chord sauce chord generator, which is in beta right now. Something I forgot to add before we go any further is the ability to loop the envelopes. So if I have envelope 2 controlling this filter frequency, I have this like sustain all the way down and release all the way down. I can change this drop down from none to loop. And you can hear that it's just repeating. It's basically like you're having an envelope for an LFO or an LFO for an envelope. And then we can use this global time knob to get some cool like exponential rhythms or something. And if you go to the MIDI tab, you can kind of have this like juggling effect if you have which key you're pressing effect at the time. So I might make this like negative so the bass is longer. I did not end up using this technique in the final track that I make, but I wanted to go back and show you the possibilities with the loop envelopes. So let's go back to making the song. I'm going to modulate this voicing around to kind of get a chord progression melody. So I want to make some kind of like intro that builds a lot of tension before it drops. So before I even add any effects, I think I'm going to start out with this time at 0, and then automate it to go to 100 after 16 bars. I'm going to actually change the time to go a little bit longer from the beginning. I'm just going to duplicate this, maybe make this a new track and just delete this from before. Like this video if you think Ableton should add a feature called duplicate to new track so I don't have to do what I just did. So here at like the beat drop part, I'm going to bring the sustain down, and then I'm just going to bring this time. So I think what I'm going to do actually at this part is I'm going to have an ARP after the chord generator, group it into a rack, and then create a dry chain so we hear the stabs. But then in chord sauce, I'm going to make it where it doesn't trigger the new notes on the voicing change. So I'm going to have my plus and automation arm on, and I'm just going to automate this as the track is going on. So we have like a cool little rhythmic thing going on. Maybe have this drum for chord sauce on. Now it's time for an actual drum beat. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quick sketch out of our sketch kit we made last video. Fun fact, Sampler also has a global time knob, so if you have like a hi-hat playing and you have the attack up just a little bit, in this case I have it mapped to a macro, but we can do a little rhythmic hat shuffle thing by automating this as well. So on Chords, I've also added this bounce MIDI feature, so it will record the current track and arm a new track for you. Then we can move this back up. Then I'm going to copy this to operator. I'm going to take out all the high notes and then shift the bass to a sub. So I just made this bass in operator, just a simple FM. And operator also has this global time knob. So I'm going to get a ton of variation from these womps. And there's also this MIDI modulator called envelope MIDI, which I can make a full video on in the future, which also has a global time knob. So I have a vocal chop here. I'm going to get a hybrid reverb, and I'm going to get an OTT afterwards because OTT is a sound design tool, not a mixing tool. And then I highly recommend making your own volume macro, which is just a utility with a gain mapped to a macro capped out at 0 instead of positive 36. And also it's nice to have a little mute knob. But what I like to do is I like to get envelope MIDI and map it to one of these. And by default, envelope MIDI is on this free mode, but sometimes it's cool to turn it on echo. So if you have the sustain down, it's kind of like a decaying LFO in a way. So I'm going to also modulate this time around a little bit. I'm going to adjust some of my slices. And if you didn't know, you can also globally scale your automation by selecting all of it, moving it up and down with these little, whatever you want to call these little pin markers. You can also slope them up and down if you wanted to. Don't forget, when you're making vocal chop slice melodies, you can use the MPE tab to pitch up and down the vocal notes. So I didn't want it to be like whatever this note was. I thought it sounded better if I shifted it up 2 semitones. So I'm working on this randomizer max device where you key map it on your main channel and leave it on your default project. So whatever device you have selected, you can just do your key command and it'll randomize the effect. Then I'm going to map my multi-shaper to a few things. If I wanted this to be like kind of like a vinyl-y intro, I could turn this delay time all the way down and the feedback all the way down, dry wet all the way up, and then get an LFO on stray and map that to the time. So it's going to kind of pitch wobble the effect since it's on pitch mode. Get a little vinyl on top of it. I'm just going to plop on my basic master channel for my rack pack, turn up the glue a little bit, and turn down the gain. Alright, probably could have added more stuff, but I feel like I got a little basic idea with a lot of good use of the global envelope knob, so let's just see what we came up with. That's all I have for this video. Hope this inspired you to start something new. Get my Pax and Max devices, get the Cortez beta, let me know what you think I should add to it before I fully announce it, and more stuff coming soon.